everybody, Tekking101 here, and we are doing this discussion video, damn it. I usually like to do these when the thing I'm discussing is actually relevant in the story. Like last week, we did the devil fruit discussion. I'm like, oh, okay, devil fruits are becoming more relevant. The whole deal with awakening devil fruits and artificial fruits, you know, Kaido's coming up. It's kind of a big deal. But, you know, I've wanted to do a discussion video about this character for, you know, a few weeks now, and I'm just like, you know what, screw it. He rarely shows up in the story, but I want to talk about him because I just love his style. I just love him as a character. He is so unique amongst all the other, not just all the other warlords, but any other character that might be seen as an obstacle to the Straw Hats in the main group. I really don't want to call him a villain in the same vein as like Eneru was a villain or Doflamingo was a villain, because he's not, but he is certainly going to be an obstacle for the Straw Hats later down the line, specifically Zoro. I am of course referring to one of the 7 warlords of the sea, Dracule Mihawk, the first of the 7 warlords to actually be revealed, and actually he's one of the only 3, I believe, that actually maintain that title throughout the entire series. We're talking, you know, the whole run of the series. He never had to leave or got dropped off of the ranking, like you know, Jinbei left, Crocodile and Doflamingo had to be, you know, removed from their position, but then you have Mihawk, Hancock, and there's Kuma, the only 3 that have always maintained it throughout the entire series. So, why do I like Mihawk so much? Well, aside from the fact that he has a kick-ass character design, Mihawk is such a unique character in that he doesn't have any sort of nefarious goal, as a lot of the other warlords do. Let's go through the list here. Not even nefarious in a sense, but let's just go through this. Crocodile wanted to take over Alabasta so he can take control of Pluton, which is like a super weapon. What he wanted to do with it at that point, I don't know. Take over the world, maybe. Pretty nefarious shit. That's why he wanted the title of Warlord. Doflamingo, do I even have to go down the list of the shit that Doflamingo did? Like, he's such an evil bastard. I don't even know where to begin with this. He falls in line with the world nobles. You know, I am a higher born, so therefore I have a right to all this shit. He ruled the underworld, brokering artificial fruits to give to one of the 4 emperors, you know, against the government's rule. Doflamingo was a pretty evil bastard. Let's see here. You had, even Hancock, in a sense. Like, I know we all like Hancock, or at least like the way, you know, she looks or whatever, but Hancock was a straight-up arrogant bitch the first time she was introduced, and even to now, she sort of kind of is to anybody that isn't Luffy. So, yeah, but they all had this title of Warlord, and a lot of them were using it to further their own agendas. You know, like in Moria's case, he just wanted to be like, alright, I'm just gonna use this title, make me king of the pirates, because I'm a lazy bastard. Crocodile, you know, I'm gonna take over the Alabasta or whatever. Even with Hancock and Jinbei, they didn't want it to do necessarily anything evil with it. Hancock had the title so she could protect her island, and Jinbei wanted the title so he can increase the relationship between humans and fishmen. Those are more noble reasons to have the title. Mihawk, you know what Mihawk's goal is? Mihawk's goal is to do whatever the fuck he wants to do. That's his goal. And I can respect that. He's not out to make he's not out to make some huge-ass kingdom or subjugate people. He's not out to have some sort of prime agenda like I want to be king of the pirates or anything like that. He's not even out to cause a mass amount of bloodshed. He just wants to do whatever he wants to do. And I think there's some respect. I mean, he's a pirate after all. I mean, that's the whole goal. The whole reason Luffy wants to be king of the pirates, I mean, yeah, the One Piece is cool and everything like that, following in Roger's footsteps, all these riches, I'm sure that's part of the reason, but for the most reason he wants to be king of the pirates is because the king of the pirates has the most freedom. And I can kind of see that with Mihawk. You know, he's sort of like a chaotic neutral. You know, it's just like, I'm out for my own devices. You know, if you piss me off, I'm gonna kill you. If you get in my way, I'm probably gonna kill you. But for the most part, I just kind of want to do whatever I want to do, you know? Also, you gotta think of why he accepted the title of Warlord. Because you might be thinking like, oh, okay, well, if that's the reason, why is he in league with the government? Why did he accept the invitation of Warlord if he just out to be himself? Maybe there's something else going on here. No, I see that's pretty much how it goes, is because, the government doesn't always... It sends you, like, a letter sometimes, like they did with Buggy, like, hey, we're going to invite you into the Warlords, you know, and sometimes they just might decide to make you a Warlord. I think in Mihawk's case, he just got it, and he's just like, oh, okay, the government wants to make me a lord, okay, whatever, you know, whatever, I'm still going to do what I want to do. For the most part, they let you do that, unless some big event like Marineford occurs, and they call you to action, but for the most part, they just kind of let you do whatever they want to do. Like, look at Hancock. I mean, Hancock's a warlord, but she doesn't attend any meetings. She doesn't do anything. The first time she pretty much did anything, for her title of warlord is to fight in Marineford. And in that case, if I'll be honest with you, if nothing in Marineford interests Mihawk, if nothing interests him and he just felt like this was just a drag and he just didn't want to do it, he wouldn't have done it. He wouldn't have went. And I don't think there's really anyone that could have stopped him in that situation. He's like, yeah, fuck you. I'm not joining this war. Nothing interests me. But you had Whitebeard there, purportedly one of the strongest men in the world. I think he did actually have the title of the strongest in the world at that point. And, maybe he thought that Luffy was going to join in. I mean, execution of Fire Fist Ace. Maybe Luffy will be there. Maybe Zoro will show up. I think Mihawk, just enough things captivated his interest there for be like, all right, I'll go to this war or whatever. So yeah, that's the reason he's a warlord and the reason he became a warlord. It's not because of any grand scheme or anything like that. And that's something I gotta kind of respect about the dude. Mihawk's never gonna be the kind of character that's gonna be like, I'm gonna go wipe out an entire village of people just because I can. And there's plenty of characters in the series, plenty of like straight up villains that would have done that, that have done that actually. And could he do that? Of course he could do that. One swing of his sword and he could do that, but that's not how he plays the game, Alright, so let's talk about his title. Let's talk about he's the greatest swordsman in the world. Alright, okay. So how do you become the greatest swordsman in the world? Alright, well, I'm going to assume, in order to become the greatest swordsman in the world, you have to, defeat the previous greatest swordsman in the world, right? This isn't a title you can just kind of win in a tournament. It's kind of like, all right, who's the greatest swordsman in the world? All right, I just killed him, or I defeated him in combat, and everybody saw, okay, you're the new greatest swordsman in the world. All right, so who do you think, going by that logic, let's just assume that's what happened, who do you think was the opponent that Mihawk defeated or killed in order to get that title? I'm going to say it's Shanks. Pretty much the only other person you can think of that's really skilled with a sword that has sort of a reputation in the world. Now, keep in mind, this is Zoro's goal to, defeat Mihawk and become the greatest swordsman in the world. I want to say that he achieved this title, I don't want to say recently, but within the last 10 years or so. Within the last 10 years or so, I was going to say that he achieved this title of greatest swordsman. Because that would have given, he's only in his 40s. He's only 43 years old or anything like that. He's not some sort of really old character like Whitebeard is, and Whitebeard's been revered, as one of the strongest, pirates throughout the generations. Mihawk is still relatively young, so in order to achieve this ranking, he was like, okay, maybe 10, 15 years ago at maximum he got this ranking. And I want to say it's at least the bare minimum 10 years, because that's the time that Shanks lost his arm. Shanks lost his arm when Luffy was 7 years old. He's 17 when the series begins, Luffy. And he was 7 years old, 10 years before that, when Shanks, did the whole thing with the Sea King, and he lost his arm, and he entrusted Luffy with the Straw Hat. And Mihawk has come out and said that I lost all interest in fighting Shanks when he lost his arm. So at some point before that, probably not very long, not very much time has passed since, Mihawk fought against Shanks, and then, Shanks met Luffy and lost his arm. That's the fight that went down, and, he managed to defeat Shanks, and then he was revered as the greatest swordsman in the world, and Whitebeard was there at the moment. Whitebeard was like, when he was talking to Shanks, he's like, man, if these youngins could have seen you and your duel with Mihawk, oh man, they would be yapping about it to the end of time. That duel was godly. And I want to see that someday. I want to see a flashback with that shit going down. Mountains getting sliced apart, like, just casually as these two are swinging their swords around. And I don't think Shanks let him win at all. I don't think it was one of those deals where it was like Shanks, because, Shanks is, for the most part, a pretty laid-back dude. It's not one of those things where it's like, all right, I'll just let you have this title. No, they fought, and they fought. It was pretty damn intense. It was intense, certainly. I wouldn't be surprised if Mihawk has at least some scar somewhere on his body from Shanks. We just haven't seen it yet. In fact, I don't think he got injured at all during his fight with Marineford. Did he get injured at all there? I don't think he did. He might have had, like, maybe a couple of scuffs or something. I don't even know if he had that. He steps out, tries to take out Whitebeard, and then, Jozu blocks it, and Mihawk's just like, all right, whatever, I gave it a shot. And, he runs around, and he fights against some random riffraff, fights against Luffy briefly. Vista shows up, and they exchange blades a little bit. But I think pretty much after that, Mihawk just kind of, like, that till the end of the war. I don't think he got injured at all during that conflict. But yeah, so I think he defeated Shanks, and that's how he achieved the title, Shanks being... Because we don't know exactly when Shanks became a Yonko, when he became an emperor, or anything like that. We knew he was one when Luffy first met him, but we don't know when he got that title. Or if, anything like that. But I'm pretty sure that's when he gained his title. And that actually syncs up with Zoro. Because Luffy met Shanks when he was really young, and that got him, that's what the goal, that's what he's like, I'm going to be king of the pirates, I'm going to find the One Piece, and I'm going to be greater pirate even than you, Shanks. So it would be cool that around the same time, while Zoro was training in the dojo, he hears about this, holy shit, this Mihawk dude defeated one of the 4 emperors, and he became this is the new strongest swordsman in the world. And then Zoro sees that, and as a little kid, like, I'm gonna beat him someday. And then that syncs up with all his training during his teenage years, when with Kuina and everything. And then he sets out to become the pirate hunter and try to find Mihawk and defeat him. So, yeah. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about Zoro and his relationship here. So, first, one of probably the first badass moments in the entire series. One of the most. And keep in mind, I watched this... You're going to hate me for this. I was a little kid, so you have to expect this. I watched this scene first during the 4Kids dub. I know. They gave Mihawk sort of like a French accent sort of thing, or maybe they were trying to make him sound more like Count Dracula, I don't know. But, even with the 4Kids watering down version, it was still an okay scene. It helps that Zoro, or Zolo, I guess I should say, Zolo's voice actor was probably the only decent voice actor in the entire 4Kids dub, because he actually gave a shit with the performance he delivered. I would have actually been fine with him being Zoro in the Funimation dub. I mean, Chris does a great job, but I would have been fine. I can't remember the exact name of the dude that did the 4Kids dub, but just look up his voice, and he's like the only worthwhile voice actor during the 4Kids era. But, yeah, even during the 4Kids era, when they had to edit out freaking Mihawk's crosses and to make it a straight line because you can't have religious imagery, even with all that taken away, I was still blown away by that scene. And then, of course, later on, I saw the original Japanese and then eventually the Funimation version of that scene. Mihawk is very respectful. He does what he wants to do, but he's very respectful of the swordsman's code, the same thing that Zoro lives by. I mean, there's just some shit you don't do. Okay? Now, Mihawk is used. It's probably like a daily occurrence for him, for somebody to come up to him and be like, all right, I'm going to defeat you now, Mihawk. And I think Krieg even did that. I think Krieg, he had a legion of, I think, like 50 ships, and I can't remember if it was just he was in Mihawk's way, and Mihawk was just... Because no one's going to interrupt Mihawk going from point A to point B. Mihawk decides, I'm going to go... I want to go to this location. Anyone that gets in my way is going to get sliced in half. It's not because... It's not personal. I'm not out for blood. It's just you're in my way and you're going to move because, I'm strong. He doesn't view it like the whole world noble things, right? He doesn't view it like, I'm superior just because I'm superior. No, I believe something more similar to his creed is the strong are strong, the weak are the weak. That's just how it goes, and I'm the strong, all right? So prove me wrong, right? But I'm pretty sure Krieg attacked him first. I'm pretty sure Krieg thought, oh man, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, and he's only in this tiny little dinghy. Meanwhile, I got like 5,000 freaking ships, and I got 50 ships and 5,000 men. I'm gonna wipe the floor with this piece of crap. And I think one ship got away, and then he followed it all the way to the Baratier, and that's how that kind of picks up there. But yeah, he's used to people having, coming up to him and threatening him and shit. And Zoro is no different. Zoro, he's like, okay, he takes out the weak little sword first. I'm like, all right, I'm going to test you. And it's very clear. It is painfully clear that if Mihawk wanted to, if Zoro would have pressed it, he could have defeated Zoro with that little tiny pocket blade, pocket knife he keeps on his necklace. Which I think he uses that to eat. It's funny. You see, like, one of the cover pages with Mihawk are hilarious. One of them is with I think he's with Shanks, and he's eating, like, just like, the takoyaki or something, and he's using his pocket knife to eat it. And then one of the more recent ones, he's, like, tilling the fields with Perona on Kirakira Island, and he's just, the cover page is like he's really chill. But anyway, so it's very clear that Zoro would have been defeated by that. But Zoro, he tells him why do you fight? And Zoro tells him the reason why he fights, and he's like, this is the reason, I gotta keep a promise to somebody, which is, of course, Kuina. And Mihawk's like, you know what? I can respect you. I can respect you as a swordsman. Okay, you're not the random riffraff coming to fight me just because I'm gonna kill Mihawk and then I'll be the greatest. No, you actually have a legitimate reason for doing this, and I can respect that. All right, I'll use my oh shit, what's the name of Mihawk's sword, Matt? Starts with a Y. In the English, it was just called Knight, but okay, I just go with that. Yato or Yaru, something like. I think it's Yaru. But I'm going to use my Black Blade. I'm going to use one of the 12 greatest swords in the world to fight you. And, yeah, we all know how that turns out. But he sees in Zoro something that he had with Shanks. He sees a rival. And I can see that that's something, that's a position that kind of needs filled in Mihawk's life. He's the greatest now. He doesn't have, like I said, he doesn't have a yearning. I don't want to lord over a kingdom. I don't want to subjugate a bunch of people. I don't want to do all of that. I don't even want to really find the One Piece. But having a decent rival to fight against, that would be something that I would be interested in. And I think that's what he sees in Zoro. And he tells him, get stronger, and because you have a resolve that is worth my time. So get stronger, and then we will fight again. Okay? And that is one of the landmark events in the One Piece series, right there. Like, one of the major events you always have to remember is Mihawk's confrontation with Zoro during the Baratie, during the East Blue arc. Right. Now, I'll admit, I got a little bit upset, a little bit pissed off by the way that Oda decided to handle the training arc with Zoro and during the 2-year time skip. And I think at the time a lot of people were a little pissed off by that. Because we saw Mihawk as Zoro's final goal. At the end of the series, Zoro's going to show Mihawk what he learned throughout his journey, and they're going to have a big epic fight. And they still will. They still will. I guarantee you they will. But then we get to the moment where he asks Mihawk to train him. And at the moment, I was pissed because I'm like, well, this is cheap. This is cheap now because, oh, okay, so now Zoro and Mihawk are going to train for 2 years. And then it's going to be like, okay, now the fight against them is just going to feel a little bit less impactful because of that. That's what I felt at the moment. But after it's been several years since that moment. It's been like 6 years or so since the time skip. Wow, I'm getting old. I remember when that went down. I was a senior in high school when that went down. I remember waiting. It was like a month-long break, like 5 weeks or so until the new chapter of One Piece released, and I'm sitting there waiting, and I remember that. It's crazy. But after reflecting on it a little bit more and seeing the scene a little bit more, you have to think about what's going through Zoro's head at that moment, where he, you know what, I'm gonna put this is my ultimate goal, to fight Mihawk. He's right here. But you know what, I'm gonna hang my head. I'm gonna put that on the line here and hang up my pride so I can help Luffy. And that's a big deal. And Mihawk sees that. Mihawk sees that in Zoro, and he's like, wow. You really want to fight me. You really want to become the greatest swordsman. I don't see a hint of regret in that in your eyes. But to think that you would bow your head to me and ask me, your enemy, to train you, this must be something really big that you must really care about your captain. You must really want his goal to be achieved before even yours. And we knew this about Zoro already, the whole shit that went down on Thriller Bark with Kuma. But it was really cemented here, and then Mihawk sees that, and he's like, okay, I will train you. Now, here's the thing here's what I think happened, though. Here's what I think happened. Mihawk did indeed train Zoro, but he trained Zoro in a very indirect way. I don't think it went down like, all right, sparring matches with Mihawk every day. I don't think that's the kind of training that he had. It's very indirect training, sort of like the Karate Kid, It's like, Daniel-san doesn't just fight, okay, Mr. Miyagi, let's just boom, 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 that's not how it goes down. It wax on, wax off, you have to train through these other methods. In the anime, it's kind of cool how they did this. One of the few anime things that they added that I'm actually a fan of is that after Zoro defeats the human drills on the island, Mihawk, he goes back to Mihawk and he says, I defeated them. And then in the anime, they go back outside, and the human drills have recovered, and their master, the big huge monkey, the master human drill that has copied Mihawk's style of combat, that has like a replica of Mihawk's sword. Mihawk tells him, okay, your first test will be to fight that thing and win, because he's copying my style. So I feel like that I could totally see that in the manga. I could totally see that. Mihawk just having to fight him in a training him in a very indirect way. The only way that we see him being trained by Mihawk in the manga that is canon is after he fights against Pika, and he explains to Zoro, like Zoro's flashing back to Mihawk, and he says, okay, I want you to master hockey, and he teaches him the basics of armament hockey, and until you can master endowing your swords with armament hockey, until you make all blades black blades, you are not allowed to touch alcohol. So I think it's sort of like stuff like that, shit like that, and maybe he incorporated Perona in some way, because Perona was on the island, maybe she helped out a little bit, but I think it was more of that stuff. In which case, maybe he did have a sparring match with Zoro, but it was only like he didn't use his full power or anything like that, and then maybe that's how he got the scar on his eye, some deal with that, but it wasn't like, you're gonna spar with me every day, and that's how you're gonna get stronger, through very indirect methods. Oh, but I've gushed long enough about Mihawk. I just wanted to kind of give you a retrospective on the character, because once again, he does not show up very often in the series. I hope he makes more appearances. Well, he's not going to make an appearance in the very, early, in the immediate future, but, and maybe after this Four Emperors arc, he might make an appearance or something like that again. It would be pretty sweet to see him again. But for the most part, I think his ultimate, the ultimate reason he's there is to be an endgame fight for Zoro, and we're probably not going to see him again for real until that time. We might see, like, oh, he's just hanging out on the island with Perona or whatever. By the way, Perona is now living on that island with Mihawk. That's just, she's living there now. So, yeah. Just take whatever you went away from that. But thanks for watching the video, guys. Leave a comment below on what you think about that. What else do you think I should do? I mean, I could totally see myself doing videos about each one of the Warlords. I could do that, totally. I'm not against it. If you would like me to do that, leave a comment below on what which of the next Warlords you would like me to talk about. Because I'm actually really excited for that, because that's the great thing about the One Piece universe, It's like, there's a lot of characters in series that it's like that are in big groups like this, that it's like, okay, here are the ones you care about, and here are the ones you don't. In the One Piece universe, with the Warlords anyway, I feel like you can pick out any random Warlord, and I'd be like, all right, talking about Jinbei. I don't even really like Jinbei. I mean, he's an okay character, but I'm just, like, not really that into him. But I could still gush and spiel about all the stuff that Jinbei, because One Piece has such a rich history, I could go on about, okay, this is the history with Jinbei and the Whitebeard Pirates and Fisher Tiger and all that shit. I can go on and on about him and talk about his personality if you would so choose. So, leave a comment below on who do you want me to discuss next in the One Piece series. Thanks for watching, guys. This is Tekking101 signing out.